Rolling Stone!
Alright, now we're on the opposite side of the game room. And first we got my, of course, Final Fantasy X-2 poster. And this is going to be, I collect a lot of statues to do with video game characters. There are occasional that are not nothing to do with video games, from an anime. And behind her, we have Pandora's Box, which came with the God of War Ultimate Edition. And anyone else who bought this was disappointed to find out when they opened up Pandora's Box. Inside, instead of getting a nice box set of CDs we were promised, a piece of paper fell out with a code to download them from a site. So unfortunately, they cheaped out on us. But it's okay, got a nice box out of it.
Way to save the environment, Sony. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the environment and you know, not the massive amount of plastic wrap this is wrapped in, of course. And
I think they're neutralizing their carbon footprint.
There you go. Now, in this cabinet, more figures, of course. The first shelf here is Final Fantasy from Final Fantasy X and X-2, the redesign of Yuna. And going down,
I always like the first Yuna better.
You know what? I'm kind of more partial to this one, but I like the version 2 of Riku, which unfortunately this is region 1. The version 1, I should say.
Boo.
And now, shelf number 2. This is where it starts getting very unique. Again, because I do love Sega. And Sega! Behind there we have Ulala from Space Channel 5. Which a game which I loved is the only rhythm game I could actually really enjoy. Unfortunately, I needed my friend Joe, who will introduce maybe a future video, to finish for me because I couldn't do it. And Phantasy Star Online Hunter. Now, I always promised myself not to get too heavily involved in RPGs, like online RPGs. Like I haven't touched World of Warcraft because I was afraid I'd get addicted to it. And this is the reason why Phantasy Star Online, literally hundreds of hours between the Dreamcast version and the Xbox version, and Phantasy Star Universe on the 360, absorbed way too much of my time, but no regrets. Fantastic. And over here is Orda from Panzer Dragoon Orda. Now this statue, as far as I remember, was only available through Sega's website, and I believe, I could be wrong on this, please comment if I'm wrong, I think only 500 were ever made. So I'm the lucky owner of one of 500 of those, and I'm not going to tell you how much I paid for it because it'd just be embarrassing. But let's put it this way: I wasn't able to get it off of Sega's website. That's all I'm going to say about that one. And shelf number 2, more various characters from more Japanese RPGs and whatnot that we never got. And down here again, probably the last non-game related statue I own is the Aliens vs Predator. Giant fan of Aliens and Predator. My dad showed me Alien when it was first out, which I was way too young to see it, but you know, I became very desensitized to horror movies probably because of that.
Join the club, brother.
And when my dad was a single dad raising me, he did a couple crazy things, and don't forget this is the 80s, so he'd get away with stuff like this. He'd just disappear every weekend to go drinking, and to shut me up, he'd rent me 3 movies every weekend. It was Aliens, Predator, and Terminator. And I'd watch those movies every Saturday and every Sunday and never get bored of them. And so this is definitely my love for the Aliens and Predator series. No regrets there. The Sega Saturn, which again I know didn't do well in North America, and I know this sounds like I'm repeating myself saying I was a giant fan of such and such, but I was a giant fan of the Saturn. Actually, at the time, I did prefer it over the PlayStation because as a gamer who just loved the Super Nintendo, I just loved 2D graphics, and the Saturn had, you know, an independent 2D processor, so the 2D stuff, like the fighting games by Capcom, were so much better on the Saturn than any other system. And also, the Saturn is responsible for, you know, some of the rarer games out there right now. So I'll pull out a few here just to show off that I have them. You know, we got Burning Rangers, one of the last Sega Saturn games made. It was really hard to find in Canada because before this was released, Sega of Canada had already closed their doors basically, so only a few stores ever could carry it. Then moving on, of course, we've got any Saturn owner who's got to own Panzer Dragoon series, Panzer Dragoon Saga being kind of the jewel of the crown of owning the Panzer games.
And then if you're really special, you have its Japanese counterpart.
Oh, which I believe I do.
Wonder who you got that one from.
I don't know, some dude.
That in itself is another video.
And this again, not showing off because it's almost embarrassing I haven't played this, but my Shining Force 3.
Oh my god!
Still sealed. Well, it's again one of the last Sega Saturn games released, and again, Sega of Canada had already closed basically their distribution doors when this was released, so only a few stores ever had it. So kept it sealed. Crazy because I understand it's an awesome game and I love Shining Force, but I can't bring myself to ever open it. But anyone who owns a Saturn as well realized it was very much ignored in North America, partly to the PlayStation's giant success, and also, in all honesty, Sega of America and Sega of Canada's inability to do the right thing. So a lot of awesome games never got released over here in North America, and we'll pull out a couple of the killers that may not really would have changed the war, but definitely would have made a difference. The Saturn version of X-Men vs. Street Fighter, which had to use an extra 4 megs of RAM and to get all the 2D graphics right.
And all the frames of animation.
Exactly, frames of animation. Samurai Showdown 4, Samurai Showdown 3, SNK games finally done right on a console other than the Neo Geo. The PlayStation versions, if anyone's played those, know what an atrocious mess they are, but they were done right on the Saturn. And of course, again, I mentioned them in an earlier video, Darkstalkers 3, never released here in the United States and Canada on the Saturn. On the PlayStation it was, but the best version was on the Saturn. Which
was really the story of 32-bit fighters.
Yeah. Exactly, the owning fighting games on the Saturn were definitely the way to go with the 2D. And of course, we got some Wii games here.
But we won't really spend a lot of time talking about Dust Collectors now, will we?
No. I'll be the first one to admit 90+% of the games are terrible on the Wii, but there is a handful of them done right. And I like to believe I do own the ones that are done right. You know, the Nintendo ones, they don't even bother pulling out because everyone knows those. Let's go for maybe the ones that people missed, like the remake of Kelowna. Excellent game.
Got any Trauma Center in there?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Of course, the Trauma Center 1 and 2.
You gotta get Trauma Team.
Trauma Team, don't own it yet. At the time of this recording, probably by the time this gets posted, I will have it. And maybe we'll end the video with me just kind of holding it in the air.
I like spending Big Mike's money.
Yeah. And Resident Evil. And again, I do realize that these are just rehashes of the GameCube, but we will most likely do a video on my strange obsession with Resident Evil and how I believe, in some weird way, that I have to own every single version of Resident Evil ever released, domestically and foreign. So you'll see literally 50 or so versions of Resident Evil scattered in and about this game room, which is embarrassing on itself, but it's...
No, it's completely fine.
It's completely fine. And actually, before we leave the shelf, I realized I haven't shown you the top part here yet. Power Glove. I'm not going to quote the wizard, but everyone knows the line. I can't do it. Only Lucas can do it, by the way, the line about the Power Glove. And we have the Phantasy Star collection. Again, Terrence and I, giant Phantasy Star fans.
Mm-hmm.
I rank it just as high as the Final Fantasy series. It's an excellent series. And the Saturn, only in Japan, of course, got the entire set. And it doesn't take too long in the video, we're going to mention Snatcher again. There's the Saturn version of Snatcher. Unfortunately, like the PlayStation version, heavily censored. We'll discuss how Japan has this weird fluctuation of what's allowed and what's not.
Well, if it doesn't have tentacles.
Yes, exactly. Tentacles seem to be fine, but a close-up of a rotting corpse is just not good. Then we're about to hit the Sega CD stuff in a couple seconds here, but this is my import Sega CD game, Shadowrun. Again, never released over here. Definitely planned. Heavily rumors going around that it was translated and ready to go, but the Sega CD was over and no one was fronting the money to release it, so had to buy the import version.
Well, it wasn't a full motion video game, so who cared, right?
That's true, and Tom Zito and Digital Pictures had nothing to do with it. It was, how dare they make a hand-drawn game.
My god.
Yep. And this, I'll quickly show off. This is
He's showing off something.
A fighting game released for the Saturn, Advanced VG, which I believe came out on the PC Engine originally, and then they remade it for the Saturn with better animation and whatnot. But this special edition is a bit unique, because it comes with a puzzle, which still sealed. I don't know if I'll ever get the strength to put it together. The game's not in here because it's probably in my Saturn right now, so Just again, a very unique, and I have no idea what this is. It came with this piece of foam and something in tinfoil. This, please comment if you know what this is, because I don't want to open it up. But if you know what this is, and if it's something that's, you know, poisonous, just, you know, don't tell me about it, it's fine.
Or tell them about it so I can keep it close.
Yeah, even better. Even better.